Why dictators favor war and its connection to China's anti-Japan hate education and anti-Taiwan independence propaganda. Introduction. Throughout history, dictators have shown a proclivity for waging wars, whether through ancient imperial conquests or modern territorial disputes. War often serves as a tool to consolidate power and divert attention from domestic issues. From Hitler's expansionism to Putin's invasion of Ukraine, authoritarian regimes frequently use conflict to achieve internal and external objectives. Similarly, the Chinese government employs anti-Japan hate education and anti-Taiwan independence propaganda to stoke nationalist fervor and construct external enemies. While not directly tied to war, these strategies share the same underlying logic as dictators' warmongering. This essay explores why dictators favor war and examines the true motives behind China's anti-Japan education and anti-Taiwan independence campaigns. Why dictators favor war. Consolidating domestic power. Dictators face the constant challenge of maintaining absolute control, and war is an effective means to unify the populace and deflect internal discontent. During economic downturns, social unrest, or political crises, dictators often fabricate external threats to shift public focus. For instance, Nazi Germany's Hitler used invasions of neighboring countries to blame economic woes on external enemies, thereby strengthening his regime. War not only ignites nationalist fervor but also provides a pretext for tighter social controls, such as curbing free speech or suppressing dissent. Creating external enemies. Dictatorial regimes often require an enemy to bolster their legitimacy. By attributing domestic failures to external forces, rulers obscure their own governance shortcomings. Propaganda portraying the nation as under threat fosters fear and loyalty among citizens, reinforcing support for the regime. For example, North Korea's Kim dynasty has long depicted the United States and South Korea as existential threats to maintain domestic unity and veneration of its leaders. War, or the specter of it, serves as a tool to manipulate public sentiment, diverting attention from internal injustices or corruption. Economic and resource gains. War also offers dictators opportunities for economic gain and resource acquisition. Historically, authoritarian regimes have invaded territories to seize land, resources, or wealth to offset domestic economic deficiencies. For instance, Saddam Hussein's 1990 invasion of Kuwait was partly motivated by a desire to control its vast oil reserves. Additionally, war can stimulate the military-industrial complex, generating profits for interest groups tied to the regime, further entrenching the dictator's power. Personal ambition and historical legacy. Dictators often harbor grandiose ambitions, seeking to leave a great mark on history through war. They may view themselves as the nation's savior, or the executor of a historical mission. For example, Mussolini aimed to revive the Roman Empire through the invasion of Ethiopia. War provides a stage for dictators to showcase power and expand influence, feeding their inflated egos. The true motives behind China's anti-Japan education and anti-Taiwan propaganda. Anti-Japan education, creating an enemy to deflect tensions through textbooks, films, and commemorative events. The Chinese government emphasizes Japan's wartime atrocities during World War II, fostering anti-Japan sentiment. While remembering history is important, this education often deliberately inflames nationalism, portraying Japan as a perpetual enemy. For instance, school curricula dwell on events like the Nanjing Massacre but rarely mention post-war improvements in Sino-Japanese relations or Japan's peaceful development. This selective narrative aims to provoke anger and dependence on the government. This tactic aligns with dictators' warmongering logic, using external enemies to divert domestic tensions. China faces challenges like wealth inequality, environmental pollution, and corruption, fueling public discontent. Anti-Japan education serves as a safety valve, channeling public frustration outward and masking governance failures. It also provides popular support for the government's hardline stance against Japan in diplomacy, enhancing regime legitimacy. Anti-Taiwan independence propaganda, consolidating power through nationalism. The Chinese government views Taiwan as a core issue, using anti-Taiwan independence propaganda to frame reunification as essential to national rejuvenation. State media frequently depict Taiwan independence forces as threats to national unity, portraying Taiwan's ties with Western nations, such as the U.S., as provocations against Chinese sovereignty. This rhetoric not only stokes nationalism but also equates opposition to independence with patriotism. The true motive behind this propaganda mirrors why dictators wage war, creating external threats to strengthen domestic control. Taiwan, as a democratic society with free elections and civil liberties, starkly contrasts with mainland China's authoritarian system. This contrast could inspire demands for democracy among mainland citizens, threatening the CCP's rule. By demonizing Taiwan independence, the government casts Taiwan as a separatist enemy, suppressing domestic discussions about democratic reforms. Additionally, the propaganda justifies an assertive international stance, bolstering domestic authority. War threats as a control mechanism. While China has not directly waged war against Japan or Taiwan, its military modernization, frequent exercises, and threats in the Taiwan Strait reflect the same logic as dictators' use of war threats. By flexing military muscle, the government intimidates external adversaries while fostering a national security first atmosphere at home, justifying stricter social controls. For instance, after Pelosi's 2022 visit to Taiwan, China conducted large-scale military drills in the Taiwan Strait, signaling resolve to both Taiwan and domestic audiences. Conclusion: dictators favor war to consolidate power, deflect tensions, seize resources, and fulfill personal ambitions. China's anti-Japan hate education and anti-Taiwan independence propaganda, while not direct precursors to war, share the same logic, using external enemies to divert domestic discontent and bolster regime legitimacy. By portraying Japan and Taiwan independence forces as threats, the government fuels nationalism and masks governance shortcomings. However, this approach risks diplomatic isolation or unintended escalation. For true stability and prosperity, China must address internal governance issues and foster an open, inclusive society rather than relying on external scapegoats.